Hello. Today is Sunday, May 31st, 2026. Here is your daily signal. First, according to Business Insider, Ukraine's campaign with mid-range drone strikes is transforming Russia's rear areas into new kill zones, presenting both practical and psychological challenges for Russian forces. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has increasingly featured unmanned aerial vehicles since the full-scale invasion in February 2022, with AI-enabled drones dramatically expanding battlefield engagements from just a few kilometers to well beyond 15 km by May 2026. Ukraine's Ministry of Defense has invested $5 billion, approximately $113 million, into the logistics lockdown program, flooding supply routes hundreds of miles behind enemy lines with mid-range strike drones. As of May 14, Russian forces launched more than 800 drones in a single day, causing 6 fatalities and disrupting train transport 23 times. Ukrainian units, such as Yasny Achai of the 13th Kartia Brigade, and startups like UForce, are at the forefront of AI-enabled operations, supported by vital satellite connectivity through Starlink. These expanded drone strike capabilities could significantly undermine Russian logistics, prompting both sides to decentralize or relocate supply chains underground. The surge in autonomous drones and satellite comms is likely to accelerate the integration of AI and robotics into global military doctrine, while disruption of Russian maritime drone campaigns due to loss of Starlink access reveals a growing reliance on Western technology. The ongoing drone war of attrition risks escalating civilian infrastructure threats and intensifying the regional arms race. Next, turning to global finance, as reported by Bloomberg, Indian firms face heightened investor scrutiny as the rupee hits record lows amidst recent geopolitical turbulence. Geopolitical events, military conflicts, sanctions, and diplomatic shifts often spark immediate volatility across financial markets. Investor sentiment tends to plummet after such shocks, leading to rapid sell-offs and increased demand for safe haven assets, with currency markets particularly sensitive to these developments. The S&P 500 dropped 1.3% on May 30, 2026, reacting to fresh U.S.-China trade restrictions, while the Japanese yen surged 2% against the dollar after an emergency security summit in Tokyo, and European bank stocks fell 2% following renewed sanctions on Russia. Global institutions like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, as well as major stock exchanges such as NYSE and the London Stock Exchange, are navigating fast-moving risks, while central banks including the U.S. Federal Reserve and the ECB may step in to stabilize conditions. In the near term, increased market volatility is likely as investors reassess exposures and central banks monitor for systemic stress, while persistent currency pressures may force emerging market governments to intervene, risking their foreign reserves. Medium-term shifts may include capital flow into safer jurisdictions, supply chain adjustments, and enhanced risk management protocols by large institutions. If instability continues, regulators may impose tighter controls on capital and financial markets. Finally, New Scientist highlights growing concerns about quantum computing's threat to Bitcoin and modern financial security, with experts warning of a possible Q-day that could compromise both cryptocurrencies and retirement savings worldwide. Quantum computers can perform computations exponentially faster than classical machines, with modern cryptographic algorithms such as Bitcoin's SHA-256 and X vulnerable to quantum-specific attacks like Shor's algorithm. A University of Sussex study from 2022 estimated a quantum computer with 317 million qubits could crack Bitcoin's encryption, and the race between cryptographers and quantum hardware innovators has intensified since Google's 53-qubit Sycamore chip in 2019. Bitcoin developers and institutions like NIST are working urgently on quantum-resistant standards, while major corporations such as IBM and Google push the quantum hardware frontier, and financial sector giants like Fidelity and Coinbase monitor associated risks. Recent peer-reviewed articles from MIT Technology Review detail Google's simulated attacks on Bitcoin wallets, and Reuters reports NIST accelerating its post-quantum encryption feedback to the financial sector after new vulnerabilities were exposed. Billions in Bitcoin could be at risk unless quantum-resistant protocols are rapidly adopted, with wallets using reused public keys particularly vulnerable to first-generation quantum attacks once computers exceed 100 million qubits. Medium-term, financial institutions may face regulatory mandates to audit and upgrade cryptographic systems. The perceived preparedness for quantum security is expected to drive sharp fluctuations in cryptocurrency values and influence major financial decisions globally. Now, onto the markets. Global stock markets saw mixed performance. In international markets, Germany and France both edged lower, with Germany's EWG closing at 43.43 and France's EWQ at 45.97. The UK also dipped slightly as EWU finished at 46.93, while Italy and Spain posted modest gains, with EWI and EWP up around 0.20%. The Netherlands led the region with EWN climbing 0.12%, while Belgium slipped. Australia outperformed with EWO jumping 2%, and China's FXI managed a small rise, but India's INDA fell by 0.27%. Chile and Israel were mostly flat, whereas Taiwan's EWT posted a notable 0.43% increase. Among commodities, gold prices rebounded as GLD climbed over 1%, while silver and platinum stayed nearly unchanged. U.S. oil retreated over 1% and agriculture was under pressure as DBA dropped 1.2%. Notably, Microsoft surged 5% and Oracle rallied 10.8% within U.S. favorites, while Adobe and ARM also gained. Apple shares traded flat, Nvidia edged lower, and Intel saw sharp declines. In sectors, the S&P 500 ticked up by 0.25%. Healthcare and real estate both slipped, though finance gained slightly. Semiconductors remained broadly flat, and transportation showed marginal strength. That's it for today. You can find more news and details on our website. Goodbye.